So I wanted to talk about spirit versus ego. And recently I've been writing a lot about what is ego. So maybe I'll actually start there because it feels most relevant as of the last few days. So first of all, it's important that we talk about spirit versus ego because they're quite different. And you could consider spirit your higher self, and you could consider ego your primal self. I like to consider ego the animalistic brain, the reptilian brain, the primitive body. Like, the body itself is a product of nature that we incarnate into, and that which incarnates into it is the spirit. So the spirit elsewhere, not of this world, chooses this world. That's you listening to this podcast chose to come to this world, and you incarnated into a body, which in this episode we're going to define to be the ego. An ego is just a byproduct of the body, in my opinion, and it is something that needs to be understood. But before we go further into that, do you have anything that you want to add to ego or spirit that came up? I feel like that was a nice surface level intro.
Yeah, I think that's good for now. I'll add on eventually.
Okay. So continuing on this thread, the ego is this sense of individuality or personhood, that which you consider to be your true self as this body. You say, me, my name is Taylor. I'm going to the store. I am an accountant, or I'm a businessman. When you're referencing this thing, I'm or me, you're referencing the ego. And this is we're just explaining this for simple speak. Obviously, like, I still use these words. I still use pronouns and whatnot. But the spirit is not tied to this body. It is connected to it, but it's not tied to it. Now, the ego's nature is one of reproduction and selfishness and making sure that it takes care of its own. And it's not common for the ego to be unconditionally loving and give away all that it has freely. This is why there's so much greed in the world, because there's typically big egos around the world. This is why wars happen, because people want more land, they want more money, they want more resources, etc. This is all a product of the ego.
And the ego loves identity, tying onto identities, titles. And that's a part of being human too, right? Like, you're not just a spirit that comes here and you're connected to your higher self from the start. It's a process of recognizing the identities that you hold and then surrendering them, shedding and letting go of these identities so that you can realize the oneness and the wholeness that you are as a spirit.
Amen. That was incredible. That was great. And so that's what we're doing here, is the spiritual work, is what you could call it, is to surrender these identities that you've tied to this name that you hold, such as Taylor, or the job that you hold, such as being a CEO or whatever. Shedding these identities, it doesn't mean that you need to resign from being an accountant or a CEO, or it doesn't mean that you need to sell your BMW or your fancy Ferrari or whatever it is. You don't need to let go and surrender or sell your material possessions. You just need to surrender the attachment to them. And this is what it is to be a human being that is coming more into their spiritual body and less into their human body.